I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity to watch the show today. We have an amazing program for you today. As always, we try to bring you some great content, um, mainly to spark discussion. You know, we're living in an era where a lot of people just like to cover stuff up, and we try to pretend like it doesn't exist or it's not happening. So we figure if we just remain silent and just not talk about it, that will resolve a lot of these issues that we don't want to discuss and bring to the table today. And we most certainly know that that's not the case. Anything that you cover up doesn't get resolved. Anything that you ignore doesn't get healed. Anything that you don't bring to the table, it just doesn't work out. And one of those things I want to talk about today is my pastor said I need to work out my abusive marriage. And I was talking to a friend, and she's one of many people who have come to me throughout the years and went to family. And of course, a lot of people that's in abusive situations, oftentimes they don't have family support. Many of them don't even have support from friends. So sometimes they don't get support from the society. Sometimes the victim oftentimes gets blamed for why they were treated the way they were treated, which I don't believe that's the case. I feel like we should never blame the victim for the abuse that they have experienced. Sometimes there's no reason at all. Sometimes they're just being abused, whether that be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically. It's something that a lot of people went through. And my friend, she went through that. So running out of resources and friends and family, and nobody seemed to believe her, even though even though her parents knew what was happening. Um, when she saw that she wasn't successful, she went to her pastor because that's the church that she was going to at the time. Pastor, I'm being abused. And his response was, well, you need to work out that marriage. She went into detail. He's physically abusing me. He's hitting me. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's very violent. What do I do, Pastor? You need to work out that abusive marriage. And like I said, she's one of probably millions of people, not just in the United States, but the world, who have been offered this type of lame, disgusting advice that comes from church leadership. And and I just think it's despicable. I really do. It's a disgrace when someone comes to you, especially if you're in a leadership position, and that's all you can offer, work out that marriage, when you are consciously aware of what that individual is going through. So many people they believe, or at least subscribe to the belief, that God wants the best for us. Have you heard that quote before? We've been told that God wants the best for us, including healthy relationships, healthy friendships, healthy marriages. But far too often, we don't see a reflection or an embodiment of this through leadership. So, believe it or not, many within the religious establishment promotes and endorse or encourages abuse victims to work out their abusive marriages. I often wonder What do they mean by work out? What is there to work out when you know that that person is being abused? What do you mean, Pastor, when you say work it out? What is there to work out? So I call to question any leader. I don't care if you're a pastor, whatever, doctor, reverend, I don't care who you are. I call into question any leader that would encourage someone to work out their abusive marriage. And I often wonder about the motive behind it for quite a few reasons. If you don't mind, I'd like to share them with you right quick. Number one, people in leadership who tell the abuse victim that they need to work out their marriage in the context of abusive marriage, I feel like they are really insensitive to what's really going on in your marriage. They they hear you, but really they don't hear you. They really don't. They don't care about you, and also they don't care about your well-being. They don't. Because if they care, anybody in their right mind would not suggest or advise you to work out your abusive marriage. And the fact that that individual would say that to you proves and indicates that they are very insensitive to what's really going on behind the scenes at your house. Number two, another reason why I think they say this is because uh, they want you to work it out because they feel it's the right thing to do. Now, remember, this person knows that you are in an abusive marriage. Those in leadership, I mean, they know this that you are in an abusive marriage, but they feel like it's the right thing for what you to do is to work it out. So first of all, how can you say it's the right thing for me to do to work out my abusive marriage? What is right about that? You see, it goes back to that question: what is there to work out? What is right about it? Me being in the condition I am in, being in the situation I'm in, what is there to work out? What is right about it? Number three, they biblically believe divorce is wrong. A lot of people within Christian circles do believe that God frowns on divorce. God hates divorce. They believe that divorce is wrong, therefore leaving the abused victim feeling complex and confused, and in fear that if that abused victim went against leadership advice. Remember, they went to and asked the pastor for some guidance, some help because they're in an abusive situation. So a lot of times the abused victim, feel like if they go against the pastor's advice, they're going against God, therefore leaving God angry, or God will be displeased with me if I divorce this individual. How many of us have seen that happen? I've seen it happen a time or two, quite a few times over my life, where it leaves the victim feeling complex and confused. What do I do? So, in other words, you have some ministries that actually encourages, as I said earlier, and endorses and promotes, regardless of what's going on in your life. He could be throwing you around, pulling your hair. I mean, whatever he's doing, acts or of abuse or exhibiting certain type of behaviors that's not healthy for that marriage, no matter what that individual is doing, you cannot get a divorce because God will frown upon that. No matter under what conditions, they try to set certain conditions up, saying that you can get a divorce for this reason, that reason. I feel like if you get a divorce between you and your spouse and not the church, the church has no say in why you choose to go through a divorce. I've been divorced twice. That was my decision to go through those divorces. The marriages just simply didn't work out. It had nothing to do with God. It just meant that we weren't happy. And sometimes it's just that way. Sometimes it's good to keep people in leadership out of your business because sometimes they're not adding healing to you, they're subtracting from it. And the last thing I was thinking is the abuse victim is often shunned and ignored. and courage to keep silent and let God fix it. If you're dealing with abuse, there's no working it out or fixing it. And when you say that, you're actually implying or telling people that God endorses abuse and God is okay with it. I'm sorry, that is not a situation that God will fix. That's something that you have to fix. That's something that you have to look at yourself, look at your value, look at who you are, what you are, and realize, like I was telling a young lady the other day, you have to realize your worth. You can't keep going in cycles with this person over and over and over again, expecting this individual to change, because oftentimes they don't. So this is what confuses me, people. Isn't this good? Are you enjoying this? This is what confuses me. If the purpose of Jesus coming to the earth was to bring healing to the brokenhearted, if the purpose of Jesus coming to the earth was to liberate those who are captive and bruised, if the purpose of Jesus coming to earth was to bring us a freedom that maybe we have never experienced before, you would agree that this perfectly describes the condition of someone who is in an abusive marriage. Would that describe an individual that's in that condition in an abusive marriage? So if this biblical narrative is true, that Jesus came to set the captives free, and he came to do this and he came to do that, to heal the broken heart, those who are wounded and battered and just bruised and going through a lot of loss and pain. If this is true, why do so many churches and leadership, typically male figure pastors, based on my experience and what I've seen, why is it that they encourage the abuse victim to stay? I want you to stop what you're doing right now and put it in the comments section, because I want to hear your thoughts. If it's true that Jesus came to do all these things and put freedom and peace and promote healthy relationships, how can you preach that and then turn around and encourage someone that you know that's in an abusive relationship, that you know that's in an abusive marriage, that you know that's living in a hostile environment? How can you preach that, then turn around and say, well, you need to work it out? I need somebody to tell me right quick. Don't be silent on me. Get in the comments right now. Tell me, why is that? So I've come to the conclusion that if you are part of a church, a ministry, a religious institution, organization, whatever you want to call it, that believes this or adheres to this belief that you need to stay, you need to look for the nearest exit. And this may bust your bubble, but nowhere in the Bible or the word, there's a place where God applauds or supports abuse. In fact, abuse is inherently the opposite of God's nature. It's not who he is. So if it ain't who he is, why are we encouraging people to remain in abusive situations? And any leader, may I say, who promotes or justifies this, and sometimes people even use scriptures to manipulate the abuse victims, um, to justify them to stand in that relationship, they are heartless and really need to reevaluate their calling. You went to leadership because you were crying out for help, and most pastors ignore this, and it becomes problematic to them because they don't know how to address it properly, which leaves them only to conclude, work it out. Regardless of how it makes your church feel, regardless of how it makes your pastor feel, your fellow Christian feel, you have to do what's best for you. You have to do what's right for you, not for them. Sometimes I think when people get married, they get everybody in their business in the church and in the world, where everything that they do is filtered through what the church thinks or what the church feels about it. What will my pastor think if I go through a divorce? Will they believe me? You have to do what's right for you, not what's right for them, not for what they think, You got to do what's right for you. You got to do what's best for you. And sometimes taking advice from uninformed pastors isn't the best interest um, of heart. It's just not. So, my friend, as we go to a close, there is nothing to work out. And if your pastor says this, ask him, how do you do that exactly? What do you mean by you need to work it out? What is there to work out in that marriage? Are you encouraging me to stay with this person? Are you encouraging me to stay in this cycle of abuse? And a lot of people feel they can't leave an abusive marriage because it looks bad. It'll look bad, especially if that person is involved in worship ministry or on the ministry team. It'll look bad. So let's just stay silent. Let's just sweep it under the rug. God is going to fix it. It's going to be okay. And also, they feel like they can't leave that abusive marriage because to the public or to the church, it will look like she didn't fight for her marriage. And as I go to a close, what is there to fight for when you know you've been going through hell in that abusive marriage? What is there to fight for? There is nothing to fight for. There is nothing to work out. Thank you so much for watching today's program. I appreciate you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Henry Harris 100 /YouTube.com. Also, follow us on Soul TV /Facebook.com. And we're also on Facebook / The Brother Henry and You Show. We'll see you next week. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God bless you
Thank you.
too. Thank you for having me.